Hey, my name is Brittany, and I'm going to talk about me reading the Percy Jackson book. I'm starting the series. I bought a box set. I considered getting up and showing y'all the box set, but I'll just wait. So, I grew up loving the idea of, let's say, like different mythologies and things of that nature and that sort. And I remember when I was little, I would watch the movie Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief every single night before going to bed. It sounds insane, but I really would. And I loved that movie. And I did not know, because I was a kid, I did not know that there were books until a couple of years later. I was like 13 years old, and there was this app called Amino, and I was on the pop punk sector, and we were talking about the movie, and I was like, yeah, that movie ate, and everybody was like, no, girl. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, did we see the same thing? And they were like, no, like it was nothing like the books. And I was like, the books? I didn't know there was books. And I feel like when I read this, I liked the books so much. I felt like I missed out on the idea. Like, imagine, growing up when these were releasing and you're reading it and you're not knowing what happens next. See, the I watched the TV show on Disney and I liked it. I watched the first season, I'm watching the second season now. It's releasing. But I was reading this and I was seeing the parallels between like how they executed some of the things from the book and the TV show. And I think the TV show did an amazing job. And I was able to piece together like, okay, this is what they were describing at this point. This was the accuracy they had there. And I was seeing the things that they didn't incorporate. And I think the things that they did them amazingly. But reading these, I wrote down some things that I want to discuss on a piece of paper, and I wanted to talk about them. I would say I'm starting or beginning as a casual enjoyer of the Percy Jackson fan base. So I won't say I know everything about like all the Greek mythologies and how to pronounce all the names and all the lore. I don't. But I do find it very interesting to get into and to read and just enjoy as a media form, because I see how some people get, because I'm on Twitter and I'm on Reddit and I read what people, talk about the filming, the cast, the lore behind the books, actual mythology, the inspiration behind different things, XYZ. And there is the people who are book purists. At least that's what people are calling book purists. Like, oh, like they did this wrong. I hate this. Oh, Annabeth looks like this. Percy looks like that. Da, 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 da. Whatever. This is the first thing I want to say. I don't know if it's because I had the preconceived notion of what the characters looked like from the movie and the TV, how they were portrayed in the movie and the TV show, versus reading the book. Because, the book, they describe Annabeth being blonde, her having blonde family, kind of, and Percy having black hair and green eyes. And I could not imagine, and I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's because I've already watched an adaptation of what the characters embodied through other actors. I could not imagine Annabeth as a blonde. I don't know, it just didn't give that, but also I don't know if it's what I said. And at the same time, when I read, I also think this is important to note. It is extremely difficult. Okay, because some people, they're like, oh, when I read it, it's like a movie and I can see it in my mind. I can't. And when I do, it's very seldom. And it takes a lot of brain power to see it in my mind. They have the little scale. They're like, oh, this is how people see things. And it's like, oh, like if you think about an apple and it's like a very vivid apple. And then on the further end of the scale, it's like black and white or non-existent. Like I'm very much here. I guess it's kind of like how people say, I don't, like how some people are like, they don't have an inner monologue. And I'm like, how do people not? So some people probably look at people like me, like, how do you not see the book when you read it? I don't. I'm just imagining it in my mind, but not as a movie. I'm just thinking about how it would look, but I can't see it. And that's the best way I can explain it. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is I like, sorry, I'm popping my knuckles. I like how reading the book added layer, because usually most of the time the books are always better than the media adaptation because they can get into more explanation of what certain things are supposed to look like or how the characters feel, or there's specific perspectives or whatever. But I really liked how reading it, me already kind of having an idea of what was going to happen based off of seeing the series and reading it and still being like, wait, how are they going to execute this in the book? Because I know they didn't follow it exactly. And I also am kind of glad that they didn't, because I'm not going to sit here and say like every storyline, like not every storyline could be easily executed like with Disney if they're just jumping into something and not really seeing how people are going to react to it. So I can understand why they would take certain things out, like that demon scorpion. I don't like I that would have been interesting, but I don't see how Disney would execute that with their brand being so clean. I can understand with the first season they'd want to play it safer for as violence and stuff like that, action, blood and all that. I really liked how the book, I don't know if they explained this in the TV show. They could have, and I could have just missed it, or the movie, because I remember seeing Smelly Gabe, or the character that played Percy's stepdad, and I was like, why is she putting up with that man? But then they explained it in the book like, oh, like she stuck up with Gabe because his nastiness, his foulness, the odor that he was emitting was hiding Percy as a demigod, was hiding him so that he would be protected in the world. And I was like, okay, I understand. But at the end of the book, oh, spoilers. At the end of the book, I understand why Percy chose to do what he did, but I'm also was really standing for the mom, like putting them out of, like putting him out of commission. In better words, I appreciate, what was her mom, Sally? I appreciate her doing what she did to Gabe and becoming a successful artiste. Because when I had read it at first, I was like, yeah, take Medusa out the box. But then I was thinking about the journey that Percy went through, and I'm like, yeah, like vengeance isn't always the answer. I cried at the end of the book. I'm gonna jump over a little bit. When Percy was talking to Poseidon on Mount Olympus, and Poseidon was kind of like, I'm sorry that you were born because you've inherited a hero's fate. And then him reconciling back with his mom and them talking and having that heart to heart. Like, I started crying because I did think about traditionally heroes, they save everybody else and they die. And then they get the accolades or the glory of being a hero. But then at the end of the day, it's kind of like, what about them? Like, who saves the hero? I guess like the hero saving themselves, like how Sally saved herself. And that's one thing that I liked in the book too, because watching the show, I didn't understand the part of the prophecy that was like, you will fail to save what matters most in the end. But reading the book, I was like, oh, okay, like he didn't technically save his mom. He was saying that his mom saved herself. And so I was able to see that in the book. And I was like, wait, what did, you know, because I'm not sure if I've already previously said this, I watched the TV show before reading, and now I'm going to read because I want to join. Okay, this is why I did that. Let me explain. I want to join some of these conversations online, but I don't want to spoil it for myself too bad because I want to experience these books kind of for the first time. I know so many years has gone by and it's kind of like, well, it's your fault if you haven't read them or kept up with them. Like, it's no more spoilers or whatever. But I have already spoiled certain things here and there that I wish I never saw because I just know it would have ate. It was like how I was reading this book and I knew the storyline and the plot line, but I wanted to see how it was executed, right? And that's, right now, I'm going to start getting into Sea of Monsters. I had not started it because I wanted to finish this video first and then get into Sea of Monsters, and then I'm going to do it one for each book that I read. This book took me 7 days because I have things to do, but most of the time I could probably finish one of these in one little sitting if I'm not doing anything else. One thing I would like this show to incorporate more is how the mist affects humans. In the book, it was kind of like when Percy and Ares were going head to head in their battle royale. And the cops showed up and everybody was like circulating them. And they showed like, oh, in the news article, they were saying that they seen them both in a gun standoff, but like spiritually behind the mist. Like they had swords and all these other weapons. I think a way that they could show us like, hey, what are the humans seeing when they're back? Like kind of in the second season, Sea of Monsters, let's say when they're on the ship and these, I forget what they're called, forgive me, these giants, they're like walking the ship and the humans are not noticing it at all. And like the guy is like walking with them and everyone's smiling at them. And it's like, okay, what are the humans seeing? Are they seeing like a human being, like a really tall person? I feel like it could be one of those parallels to how, if you've seen Madagascar, the movies, how the animals are able to talk to each other and we, the viewers, are able to understand the animals because it's a TV show. But they would like cut for comedy. Like, let's say one of the animals trying to talk to one of the humans and you just hear a bunch of like animal noise, woof, 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 or whatever the you know what I mean? It's kind of funny. It's like, roar, roar.
We've got a lost zebra, probably on the way to Connecticut by now, and we're gonna need... Hello?
But the animal is like trying to speak, so it's like behind the mist, like humans, they may just hear that animal roaring, roar, roar, but like it's actually trying to talk. And so I would like to see that incorporated more because I found that interesting, that concept. I also liked the storyline where they covered up what was going on with Percy and Annabeth and Grover. Like, hey, like this is why the bus blew up. This is why the arch blew up. This is what was going on. Like these kids, they're victims and they were kidnapped by this man. I feel like that could have been really interesting to see in the show. I know they took it in a different direction, probably for time and money, all that. But that was funny. I did enjoy reading that. And one thing I liked that the show did, that the book, like against the grain of the book, was they left Grover behind with Ares, and Ares and Grover had that conversation, and Annabeth and Percy went to Hephaestus's, I want to say playground so bad. What was it called? Oh my gosh, amusement park. And I liked how in the show they did the storyline with the chair. Like I said, I'm not remembering all the terms of the lore. I liked that better. When I was reading the book, seeing that first and then reading the book and seeing what happened in the book, I'm glad they took it in that direction. I'll leave it there. Because it's kind of like, okay, because like in the book, like Grover was with them and he was using the shoes and they was all working together. I enjoyed that. One thing that I really did like about the movies, because I now that I've looked at these other medias, I understand why people hated the first Percy Jackson movie. See, I liked Lightning Thief. I don't think I watched Sea of Monsters all the way through because Annabeth was suddenly blonde and I was confused. That wasn't the only reason. I just remember watching half of it and getting bored, and then people are saying, yeah, they tried to cram like the other books within the second movie and it just did not hit at all. But the first movie, I think everyone or most people can agree, like this scene where they were in the gnome I'm forgetting all the words, when they were in Medusa's garden and when they went to the casino, those scenes ATE. Like, what are you telling me? Percy took out Medusa with an iPhone or an iPod 4. Like, what are you telling me? The scene with they went to the Lotus Flower Casino and you're just hearing Lady Gaga music in the back. Like those scenes, like they did really good on that. And when I read the book, I was seeing like, oh, this casino was made to be kind of structured more for kids, maybe. Just how it was reading, it was appealing to a kid. And I know these books were written for kids and like preteens and stuff, but I'm reading this as an adult. this is kind of going off topic. When I was in, let's say, middle school, high school age, or elementary school, I don't think my elementary school had the Percy Jackson books, and I'm sure my middle school did. But the way it was set up, we didn't go to the library at all. And I know that it was available for students to go, but they never put it out there how to do that and how to check out books. So nobody ever did. Nobody I knew did. They was not pushing us to read like that past elementary school in my district for whatever reason. But I'm sure that they would have had the Percy Jackson books. But like that, saying that makes me think like, or makes me feel like, you know, everybody else was on this wavelength and I was just sitting here with the movies not understanding what I was missing. The next thing, what did I write down? Oh, Luke's character. Okay, if I'm being honest, reading the book, like, I understand. Okay, when I was watching the show, like I said, I don't remember if they talked about what exactly happened to Luke, but I like how reading the book, I'm like, oh, he got his face cut. I was like, what happened? Like the scar on his face cut by, I think, a dragon when he had got sent on a quest, and then he didn't even like his quest, and it felt like it was a repeat of a quest that Hercules had did because he needed to get an apple and he got hurt in the process, and then he's just upset with how the gods have treated him and how he feels from his perspective that they let Thalia die. And so I could understand why Luke would feel that way given his perspective on life and the things that happened and the things that he saw. And I'm just assuming that him seeing Percy be successful with the quest that everybody thought would surely kill him upset him even more. And I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, because you're seeing somebody who came in having vague knowledge, assumably from what I've read, of a prophecy and being a part of it, but on the side that is wanting Kronos to come back, and seeing this kid come in and learn all of these different things that took you a couple of years to learn, like let's say sword fighting, and Percy got a little bit better at doing that, and appeasing the gods, having conversations with them. Like in the show, for instance, Percy and Hermes, which is Luke's dad, was chopping it up on several occasions. Well, not chopping it up, but they like met face to face, and it's kind of like Luke hasn't seen his dad and he hates him. And it's kind of like they could pop up if they want to, and they haven't. So that would just make Luke feel like, well, he doesn't want to, because it's kind of like one of those things where it's like the gods show up when they want to, not when we want them to. And so I feel like Luke he has a complex character. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about him just based off of book one. I don't think I'm a Luke apologist, because I do rock with Percy and Annabeth a long way. Okay, I must add really quick, I put my hair up, and this is me thinking about one of the things I said. I understand where Luke is coming from, but forgetting the implication that it would kill millions and thousands of people. Just saying, I understand how Luke could get to this mind state, not that he is correct, not that Western civilization should be wiped out completely, because like Percy was saying at the end, it's kind of like a lot of people would be suffering, and could I put all these people through that, what I witnessed going into the underworld. Not that Luke is correct in his assertions of what should happen given the consequences of those things happening and how that would affect civilization, but just the idea of him being so hurt by all of these different factors that has allowed him to be manipulated by these powers that are preying upon his wounded places, that is preying upon his emotional, like his preying on his emotions, preying on his hurt and personality. And then I really appreciate like understanding deeper what happened with Grover in his first quest, and seeing that it was really hard on him. I understood that it was hard on him from watching the show. They did touch on it, but you did get more information reading the book, so I appreciate. I liked that. Getting more character. I won't say character development. It's kind of like, I didn't know that Annabeth wanted to be an architect. That makes sense why she was so amazed and enthralled about, going to the arch in the show. And she was like, well, this is what humans look at it as. But what it actually is, it's like a temple of Athena. It's like her mother's domain and all that. And so getting the deeper knowledge of that, like everything in, let's say they're saying like Western civilization is modeled after the gods in one way or the other. I did. Girl, I can't even read my own handwriting. It is looking like Egyptian hieroglyphics in chicken scratch. This is also off topic. Does anybody else's handwriting, like sometimes it eats and then other times it looks like this? I have different handwritings. Like sometimes it could be really neat and then other times I just be writing fast and scribbling it down. I can't even read what I said and that's not good. It's just like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the chapters and see if anything strikes my memory. Percy saw the fates earlier in the book than he did the series, but it still worked for what they were going for. And I also found it interesting. Let me look up, because I'm pretty sure I know what a rasta cap is. I did giggle at that. And the fact that the author, I don't know how to say it, Riordan, rasta hat. I'm pretty sure, like, that is so funny to me. They probably wouldn't be able to execute this in modern times, but I understand why the movie they chose a black man and then he had on that little beanie. They probably thought it was risky to pull up with one of these. I knew this what it was. I just had to be sure just in case it changed randomly. But that was funny. Like Hyde Grover's horns. I honestly think if they wanted to go in that direction ever, that they could. The Garden Gnome Emporium. I'm offered a quest. My dinner goes up in smoke. Oh. I also found it interesting. Take a shot every time I say I find something interesting, or I read. I found it interesting that they talked about what Percy's mom did for a living, and that made the scenes in the show when she had given him the bag of blue jelly beans so much more profound. Like when she was when Percy was talking about his mom having a little bit of a rebellious nature to her and Gabe getting into an argument one time, like, oh, there's no such thing as a blue food, and after, like, she would make and find blue foods out of spite, and her also working at a candy shop and bringing back candies for Percy. And so seeing that be Percy's comfort item in a way, or his offering in the show, made it much more significant and profound. And I think as well, if people weren't aware, like I think if people were aware of that, because I'm pretty sure there are people like me who are watching the show or watch the movies and they never read the books before, like it would add those layers, In the book, they made Clarisse, which I'm not sure if this is how they're doing it. Spoilers for book 1 and book 2 ? I seen on Twitter, and they were saying when Percy had went to the Oracle, he saw Gabe, which is the person that he hated the most at the time. When Clarisse went to the Oracle, they said she saw herself, and someone had the theory, they were like, oh, like my poor baby Clarisse, like, does the Oracle show you the person you hate the most? Like, who are they going to see when they do that? And so when I read the book and I seen like what Clarisse was described to be, like a bigger girl, it made me really sad, because I know a lot of people would a lot of people deem those characters in media to be more insecure. Like, oh, surely you're insecure about your weight. So if that theory or hypothesis or whatever is correct, like that would add a layer to Clarisse's character a little bit. Like, okay, she puffs up, so much and has this beef with Percy, but she has a really hard time accepting herself, maybe, or she doesn't like herself. I'm not sure if that's where they're going to take it, but it would be interesting. Obviously, they didn't cast people that looked like the people in how the book described it. But one thing I noticed also in the book, there were a lot of characters that were blonde for some reason. Like, I think they said Luke had blonde hair, Annabeth had blonde hair, this other villain god had blonde. Like, it's just so many blondes. And after a while, like I said, I'm having difficulty envisioning, and this is not the author's fault, this is nobody's fault but my own, how I was created, I suppose. Not being able to visualize that, but I find it easier in my mind if I'm like, okay, this character is a redhead, this character has this color hair, but my brain could not make it where, I think the casting is perfect. Like, the casting for the series is perfect. And maybe not everyone feels that way. And I don't know if I have a preconceived notion of bias or any of that from what I previously explained. But I see them as the characters that I read on the book. And like reading the book, I'm like, nope, that's not what he looks like. That's not what she looks like. That's also a thing in the past. Sometimes the author will describe a character and they'll say, oh, they have this type of hair texture, this color hair, they have this skin tone, they wear this. In my brain, I'm like, by their actions, they look like this archetype. I hope this helps. And I will go into the forums and see what other people are saying, and they would say the same thing, like, I didn't envision the character as the author intended, which that's okay. It's like art is up for interpretation at times. I'm looking at the table of contents right now. For chapter 1 in the TV series, I will honestly say I did not like how Grover was gaslighting Percy and how everybody was like, oh, Miss Dodds. Oh, sorry. Not gaslighting. Okay, for chapter 1, for the series, I did not like how Grover lied on Percy, but then I understood why. They executed it 3 different ways. I forgot what happened in the movie. It has been a while since I've seen the movie. But in the book, they had it kind of like a boarding situation to where Percy overheard Grover and Chiron talking, or his professor at the time. And he was like, wait, they're talking about me. Like, what is this about? They're hiding secrets. And then also seeing when Percy received his pen, it was at a different point. And I don't know, seeing that the pen was a gift from his dad, Poseidon, I didn't put 2 and 2 together until reading the book. I thought the pen was a gift from the teacher. And maybe somebody might be like, girl, like, this context clues. Like, I don't know. I didn't put it together until I read the book. And it was clear as day to me that, okay, Poseidon gave it to Chiron for the day that one of his children gets claimed. When Poseidon claims someone as his kid, a forbidden child, as they would say. I also started crying about, like, them talking about the topics of abuse, like domestic abuse. They couldn't get too deep into it because of, the target audience. But I do admire that. Chapter 12, we get advice from a poodle. Watching the series first and reading this chapter, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, the poodle is the op. The poodle is the op, and they don't know. But it was a regular poodle. Like, the poodle, like the actual poodle was just trying to help them to get money, and the actual beast was an actual beast later. Like, it was two separate entities. Watching the show, I was remembering, like, oh, when they was on the bus, that lady, she had came in with her dog that was like a devil, but low key. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, they don't even know what they're about to encounter. But that's not where it went at all. And so, like I said, I was getting the twists and the turns a little bit still, like, even knowing the plot overall, like, I didn't know where they were going to take it. Like, even the whole time I'm like, oh, like, Luke portrayed Percy, like, that's going to be the friend who turns on him. At the end, like, they're like drinking sodas and propping their feet up at the fireplace. I'm like, when are they going to start fighting? I know what's going to happen. And Percy's like noticing little things here and there, like, oh, like, he's littering and we're not supposed to do that. Like, the naiads, the dryads are going to get mad, and the nature spirits, like, they're going to put some centipedes in your bed at night if you do that. Like, outside food, and they're like, how did you get outside food if no one's, like, allowed to leave, or unless you're tight with a satyr? And he's just noticing a bunch of things. It's kind of like how SpongeBob was peeping Squidward for saying, no, I hate Krabby Patties, and then SpongeBob's like, I'm paraphrasing, why is your face so greasy? And why do you look guilty? And why are your thighs so fat? Like, I don't know, whatever SpongeBob was saying.
And why are you acting so nervous? And why are you sweating so much? And why do you look so hungry?
And he was like putting the pieces together, and then I thought they was going to start sword fighting, but no, he just releases a scorpion from the pits of Tartarus. Luke felt as though going on that mission and stealing the Helm of Darkness and the lightning bolt was like a quest of glory for him, because, oh, like, the gods are so arrogant, they didn't think that anybody would try to steal from them, and look, I did it and nobody else had the guts to, and d. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you do see yourself as a pawn in the gods' plans, but also by you operating like this, you are falling into the gods' plans. It's like, all of y'all have little bits and pieces of whatever this prophecy is, and y'all understand prophecies aren't always the clearest, but there is an end goal of how to get there, regardless of the certain things that happen. Or sometimes it could be like, oh, it could fall this way or it could fall that way, depending on free will and what people do. But it's kind of like, in you doing that, you're setting Percy and all these other people up to possibly fulfill the prophecy that you were trying to stop. It's like, yeah, I'm sure by reading this in context clues, where it's like, he will have the opportunity to, like, take down Olympus if he wants to, or whatever, or not. But I don't know if this is making sense. I don't know if I'm thinking too hard into it. I'm not able to string my words together enough to make it make the fullest amount of sense. But if you understand, we're here, you know. Percy being a fugitive storyline, I know they incorporated that in the series. I liked seeing it come up in the book. I that is a storyline I miss. Even y'all know what I mean. Like, I liked, like, oh, okay, we're reading the newspaper, we're seeing what people are seeing through the mist. Smelly Gabe is running this fake campaign. He don't even care about Percy. I also liked seeing the differences when they were in the underworld. I want to say, like, in the movie, Persephone did make an appearance, or there was a woman down there that was like Hades's partner, if I'm not mistaken. But they explained why she wasn't in the book, and then she wasn't in the TV series as well. If I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. And then also in the series, Annabeth had to leave early. In the book, Annabeth was the one to get the hellhound. I think it was a hellhound. If it's not a hellhound, no. What was it? Or here I am forgetting. I want to. It might start with the C. The big dog. The big dog. She was able to tame it with the red ball. Play with what was his name? The dog with 3 heads. And she had the dog ball or the bread ball, train the dog, and they was able to get through. And then this whole time, all the guys was like, yeah, we saw y'all, and we could have killed y'all. We could have blew y'all up out of the sea. Not out the sea. We could have blew y'all up out of the sky. Yeah, we could have killed y'all on the way to the underworld. But I decided to let you live because I wanted to hear you out, but I don't really want to hear you out. What are y'all talking about? Like, I understand it, but then also it's kind of like, I understand it, but also it's kind of like, y'all really didn't want to kill them for real, because if y'all did, y'all would have. Oop, who said that? Anyway. Yeah. But in the show, Annabeth had regrets, and so she was getting stuck in that field, and so she had to put the pearl down and stomp on it so she could be poof out of there. You know what I mean? Oh, this is what I was gonna say. I did not understand why the shoes was dragging Grover to the pits of Tartarus until I read the book. I was like, wait, okay, the shoes are supposed to fly. Yeah, they were intending for Percy to do. They were intending for that to be Percy, but since Grover wore the shoes, it didn't work out how it was supposed to. XYZ, and they all worked together. Teamwork, making the dream work. And they explained in the book that the shoes were cursed to do that. And I was like, that makes sense. I was understanding oh, the shoes, they have a mind of their own. Like, I didn't know why they were dragging Grover, and I didn't know why. Well, I knew the intentions, but I didn't know the deeper reason of the cause of why the shoes, once they got to a certain place, was trying to do that. And then also, when Ares had gave Percy the bag, I think in both instances, I was like, how did it end up in Percy's bag? But then Ares was explaining it is kind of like some god magic, and it got summoned to a certain spot because of the sheath. The backpack is a sheath, and I shapeshifted it into a human reality. So to the naked human eye, the naked half god eye or demigod eye, you see a backpack, but really it's the sheath for the lightning bolt, which gets summoned to where you are, where the sheath is, once you reach the underworld. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It really does. I wasn't clocking any of that in the medias. And I think that's all I have to say for now. I know I could talk about this all day if anybody lets me. But if there was something specifically that you liked in the book or TV show or movie, let me know in the comments. Or if there's something you wanted my opinion about just by reading the first book, because I'm only this book deep and the 3rd episode deep in the 2nd season in the series. I've only seen the first movie, not the 2nd one, all the way through. Let me know or ask, and I'll get back to you or try. That's all that I have to say for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me. I will make some more of these because I'm in my reading bag now. Oh, my reading bag again. Talk to you later.